Hey True Believers, England Teen here with comic book history. This time we're talking about Storm's Mohawk, looking at the comics that led to her getting it, the X-Men 172, 173, and a little bit beyond that. I do believe they went with the Mohawk way too early in the movies because it represents a character change, and they should have started off with her being a little bit softer. At least I'm an old school guy, that's what I think. But with all that aside, let's get this party started. Now, if you don't remember Uncanny X-Men 172, this is the wedding of Wolverine and Mariko in Japan. And the X-Men arrive, and there's a bit of a hello and how you doing as Wolverine's getting acclimated to the team because he's been away from them for a while. He finds out, oh wait, you've got a dragon now, and meets Lockheed, and then discovers, of course, that Rogue is now a member of the X-Men. At first, this doesn't sit well with Wolverine, but he understands how he was when the team recruited him, and he reluctantly goes along with it. And then we cut to the Silver Samurai. Yuriko's watching him. Silver Samurai's like, hey, I'm going to start a fight with these guys. And Yuriko's like, no, you ain't, dude. Kind of jumps in. Wolverine hears the noise, and both he and Nightcrawler do the superhero thing and just leap into battle. Wolverine loses his footing, falls off a building, and Yuriko also loses hers, and Storm saves her. This is where we start to notice that Storm's changing a bit. You know, she went from this peaceful person to a little bit more impatient. She had always been kind of the matronly person in the X-Men, the sisterly even, somebody that they could go to advice for, and that seems to be withering away at this point. So the group kind of gathers around, they have a, hey, what happened? And Mariko gets off to leave, where when she's all by herself, Viper steps in and kidnaps her. And Wolverine and Storm, they have this little back and forth, and Wolverine looks at her and says, you've changed. And Storm says, so have you. And the big dichotomy here is that Wolverine is actually becoming more peaceful and more at peace with his love for Mariko, while Storm, being, of course, in the X-Men and all the violence that surrounded her, is getting more hard edge. And during the conversation, Wolverine notices the odor and the flavor of the tea is a little bit off, and he's like, no, it's poison, don't drink that. But, of course, he's a little bit too late. We find out that Viper and the Silver Samurai have kidnapped the Lady Mariko, and Yukio's like, woohoo, I'm going to stop you now. And she jumps in, and Viper tries to make her escape, but ends up getting slammed into a wall. And that's when we discover that Storm had decided to join Yuriko on this little quest and is doing all she can to help the Lady Mariko. Storm tries to electrocute the Silver Samurai, but in her excitement, she just bursts out way too much energy. She tries to draw some of it back into her, and it causes this huge explosion, so she and Yuriko both jump off the building into the water, and at that point, they're like, woohoo, yay, and Storm's like really excited, so she's like, hey, Yuriko, we're a team now. And we also see that Silver Samurai and Viper also made their escape. And then we cut to Wolverine, and he's all sorts of pissed off. And he's like, I'm going to go save my fiancée. I'm going to go save Mariko. And Rogue's like, dude, I want to come with you. And Wolverine's like, yeah, whatever, so long as you could keep up. Which brings us to Uncanny X-Men 173, which I believe this is one of the most iconic covers in X-Men history. And the story starts off with Rogue and Wolverine pretty much beating the snot out of a whole bunch of locals in a bar. And they're doing that whole, well, I know he'll kill you if he finds out you're going to tell me, but if you don't tell me, I'm going to kill you anyway kind of routine. But it works as they get a name, Novatone, and Rogue's like, hey, what are we going to do next? And Wolverine goes, hey, it's going to get nasty. And they leave. We visit Storm and Yuriko for a page here while we find out Storm's having a great time, but she's powerless because of that big surge that she absorbed in the last issue. Cutting back to Rogue and Wolverine, they're looking for Novatone, and Rogue accidentally trips an alarm. Wolverine notices they're in danger, pushes both of them to the floor. Rogue wants to thank Wolverine. She tries to kiss him, but Wolverine puts his claws up to her throat. She says, hey, I meant no harm, and Wolverine's like, yeah, and that's why you're still alive. And then they go off looking for Novatone again. They find Novatone, but he's been dead for a while, and Wolverine suspects that their search for him was just a plant. It was a distraction so Viper could get to the X-Men in the hospital. Back to Storm and Yuriko, where they just dispatched a whole bunch of criminals in an alley, and Storm is just losing it. She is just having a great time letting loose. Cut to the hospital the X-Men are in, and we find out Wolverine was right, and Viper is there trying to kill them. So Rogue busts in, takes out a couple of ninjas, starts fighting them. Viper sees this and's like, oh my gosh, I got a distraction. I'm going to go kill the X-Men and Marco. And really, she's just interested in Marco because she's next in line for the Mafia. They're the Yakuza. And if Marco's killed, then Silver Samurai is next in line. So that's the motive. But Silver Surfer is... Silver Surfer? How about Silver Samurai, like I've been saying all throughout the rest of this review? Okay, anyway, the Silver Samurai is preoccupied with Wolverine, and this is one of the best fight scenes in all of X-TREME, seriously. One of the reasons being is because this is before they made Wolverine immortal, you know, back when he could be killed, back when people knew how to exploit his healing factor and everything. And that's just something they threw out the window, which I think is bad because fights like this, there was tension to it. Is Wolverine going to get out of it? Nowadays, you know he is. Of course, you know he was back then. He's the title character, and he was the most popular of the X-Men. But as a young reader, it's still in the back of your mind. Wolverine gets the upper hand, and he's about to kill the Silver Samurai, but then Mariko says, no, Wolverine, stop, don't. We've had enough bloodshed, and of course, Silver Samurai is her brother. Viper comes out, she sees a samurai fall, draws her gun, and fires it at Mariko, but thankfully Rogue flies in, pushing Mariko and Wolverine to the floor and taking the brunt of the ray blast from Viper. Viper's gun explodes, and Wolverine looks at Rogue and says, all's good with you, all's good with me, and all's good with the world. Cut to later, and we're following the lady Mariko. She's in her garden, and she's wondering what's going to happen with her family, the clan Yashada. She hears somebody call out her name. She gets a headache. Cut to what should be the wrap-up, and we see everybody hanging around, and oh, the Summers family shows up. Alex, Polaris, there's the dad, Corsair, and of course Scott with Madeline Pryor, and this kind of triggers Alandra, and she's like, oh my gosh, it's a Dark Phoenix, but they're like, no, it's a holy crap, and they start seeing Storm descend, and they're just slack-jawed, amazed at what they're seeing, because we get the big reveal with Storm there in full leather jacket and mohawk, the whole 9 yards, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, what'd you do? I can't believe it, oh no! Kitty Pryde walks up to her and just looks at her and, oh my god, Aurora, how could you? And she runs away. And when the dust settles, everybody's just sitting around. Kitty Pryde gives Madeline Lockheed the Dragon, and she's like, oh my gosh, what the heck did I marry into? And that's when Mariko comes in, and she just passes by Wolverine. She seems very cold, very distant, and announces that the wedding's off. Wolverine just is not worthy. And we see Mariko and Wolverine just kind of pass by him. We notice there's somebody watching. It's Jason Wingard, otherwise known as Mastermind, who convinced Mariko to end the wedding. So there you go, gang. X-Men 172 and 173. This is the storyline that introduced Storm Mohawk, or Mohawk Storm, or whatever version you want to call it. And in all honesty, you hear a lot of people these days that seem to be adverse to change. But don't let it fool you. We were the same way. I mean, this is Storm right here in Giant Size X-Men, on the Giant Size X-Men #1 cover. This is her first appearance. And one of the biggest appeals was that long, flowing white hair that she had. So when she cut it off, that actually was a bit of a big deal to X-Men fans. You got to also remember that at the time, X-Men were huge. They were everywhere. It's what everyone wanted to see, and it wasn't just the hair, it was the attitude, it was the matronly attitude, and of course they used the hair to basically cover up all of Storm's naughty bits anytime she did that. Oh, I'm the Storm Goddess, I'm gonna go flow around naked. And let me tell you something, when you're trying to make this point, don't Google Storm naked, because you're gonna see things you can't unsee. Unless, of course, you're into that, then Google away. And I've touched upon it a little bit, and I'm going to reiterate the fact that this was an outward expression of Storm's inner feelings. You see, she was the matron. She was the sister, depending on who you were talking to. To Kitty Pryde, she was like a surrogate mother. And you would see her with the softer features, with the hair. It wasn't as big. It was, and it was long and everything. Kitty needed, Storm was at the time, and that's why hers was the strongest reaction to the Mohawk. She just couldn't take it. It was almost as if she saw Storm turning her back on Kitty Pryde and on being the figure that she needed her to be. In a scene in X-Men number 180, Storm confronts Kitty Pryde. She's been kind of avoiding her and treating her a little bit bad. And Kitty says, well, why did you do it? And we got a real explanation. She's the leader of the X-Men at this point, and she knows that she's going to be sending people she loves off in harm's way, or maybe even their death. And the hair represents the fact that she cannot be that motherly personality. She can't be the matron. She can't be just the big sister anymore. She's going to be a little bit more ruthless. She's got to be like Wolverine or criminal rogue at the time. She's got to be able to make those hard decisions. And once again, this is just an outward expression of those internal feelings. And just a little bit more evidence in my her hair represents her identity theory. Here she is in a storyline. Storm is completely bald, but she's also mind-controlled. She lost her hair. She lost her identity. The hair equals identity even carries over to the movies. Like in the first one, she's a bit more professionally. They really do kind of focus a little bit more on the school. So she's got the long matron manes. And then we get to the second one. There's less schooling, more fighting. So she's got a little bit shorter hair. It's not crew cut or anything. It's not butch. It's definitely not, it's still a little bit long. But you cut to the third one, school's out of the picture. They're just pure on fighting in the third one. And she's got the almost like the bob cut. I mean, it's so short. I don't know hairstyles, but it's like a really short haircut in the third one. But get to Days of Future Past and Holy Toledo Gang, it looks butch. I mean, it's done. I'm sorry, it proves it. And if you take it to the newer films with a young lady, yeah, she's the African goddess and all that kind of thing, but they give her the personality of Storm in Japan, so they give her the Mohawk. Plus, it looks cool, I'm sure. Anyway, there you go, gang. That is a little bit of a history of Storm's Mohawk, the stories where it came from, my personal opinions on the whole Storm's hair equals her identity thing. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to click like, share, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and click on one of the videos that are popping up around you if you haven't done it already. Also, go on over to Patreon or Ko-Fi. The link's in the description below, and drop $1 in the till. Helps keep the lights on, helps keep making videos for you. I'd like to thank everybody who's already done that, and to everyone, all of the true believers, thank you very, very much for watching.